Hello, in today's video we're going to show you how to automate tasks using Cron. Let's walk through how to set up schedule scripts, basic logging, and even how to run tasks on boot. First, let's make sure Cron is running on your system. We'll use systemctl status cron. Most systems, or at least Ubuntu, Cron is active by default, and the system side configuration file, this will also give you some basic info, is located at, well, I'll put the context. You say cat/cron tab, and you can see right here it says it just gives you like a really good idea how the numbering system works. You can see that the first star represents the minute, the second star represents the hour, the third star represents the day of the month, the fourth star represents the specific month, and then the day of the week represents like the actual day. And to kind of get an idea how this works is if you leave it as a star, that means it's going to run every single minute, for example, or every single hour, or every single month, or every single month. And when you put in a number instead of a star, that specifies to Cron that you want it to run only at that specific time. So like, for example, if you want to run something every single day at a certain hour in the day, you would write 0 minute, so it starts at like it doesn't repeat over the minutes, like for specific, it starts at 0 minutes, and then you put in whatever hour you want to start with. So let's say 3 a.m., like you want to reboot a computer system when people aren't awake, so it doesn't like kick them out. That's a good time. And then you can leave a star for the day of the month, so it's every single day of the month. And then leave a star for the month, so it goes through every single month. And then leave the day week as a star as well, so it goes every single day of that week. So that does give you like a pretty good understanding of how those stars work. Let's start by creating a basic logging with Cron. We will start by making a directory where we will store our scripts for Cron. So write scripts. Well, you can name this anything. We gotta make it first. Make directory. And then we open it. And then we create our file. We'll call it test.sh as our script. We'll create our log file, so we'll call it testfile.log, and then we'll make our test file executable so that the cron can actually run it. Alright, and now that we have those, we need to verify the path to bash so we can use it correctly in our scripts shebang file. So we'll use type, we'll clear the screen real quick, use type bash, and this gives you the directory to where your bash shebang's at. This is pretty useful because it can vary from operating system to operating system, and you want to make sure that you're putting in the right path, or else it won't work. So to indicate that your file is using bash as its coding language, you have to include this at the top of your file, just like that. Now we will output a message like, let's say we'll output, let's do a hello world and then like a little date. I think that's a good way of doing it. So output the variable that's stored in date, and then we'll say hello world. I think that's a pretty good tradition to have this. You can, and another thing is you can log within this your script here, so you can write test file. You can also you can also output to a file used within Cron's command. Like So, but we're just gonna put in here just to make it more like simplified. And we also need to include the path to this file. So we'll back out right now, so use pwd, and you see where you see home, that's where the home of the users are, and then my user is named test in this example. It can be different depending on what you actually name your user, so it's not always going to be the same. And then we'll paste down the path that we want this to go into to make sure everything works. We can save this file now. Now let's use this. We'll use one of the commands we'll explore. So we have this one that's called cron tab. So you always use cron tab whenever you're using the cron, most of the cron commands, and then we'll use -e of the flag for edit. This is how you're going to edit your task that you set up. And then once you're in here, the syntax for creating, so we're going to have like a hello world outputting every minute. And to do that, you'd write every minute, but let's say if you do a slash, you set an interval, and then you put a 1, so you can do every minute in that section of time. And then we'll leave the rest of them just open here, because we're going to do every day, every hour, every day of the month, and then every month, and then every day of the week. And then and now we include our directories to our executable file. So you do slash home, and then you're going to do slash test. Well, this is going to be where you're not going to write test, that's going to be whatever your username is. And then you write slash scripts, and then you type slash test.sh, which is going to be your executable file. And that's it. Our cron should now be running. We can use cron tab /l. This is like a way to output your file. And then we'll use tail -f test file so that we can see live changes. So we can already see there's a hello world right here. Let's wait a minute so we can get our next output to see it in live action. But if you recall, when we're including the executable file to call it every minute, that pretty much means you can replace that with any command, but it does bring the idea that you can run any series of commands. Pretty much, it's on whatever case you need it for. My useful case that I needed it for was to reboot my computer every day so I don't run out of RAM for the Minecraft world that I'm running. We'll see if they and manually rebooting is not the best, since you can forget. And as you can see, the nil hello world's been updated. We'll have to change the date 1 minute apart. It's working as intended. So here's some, and now that we understand how to to automate tasks with cron, we can use the following commands to allow cron to use sudo commands. So as my case was referring to earlier, that I wanted to reboot my computer every single day, but that's a sudo ability. So to allow cron to use sudo, you actually have to allow your user that using on your computer to not have to use the password, which can be not ideal, since people, let's say, to log in on your computer, they don't need to use the login every time to use those commands, which that means whatever user that you're going to use for automating tasks with cron, make sure that it's not an account that you can log in from externally, because we don't want someone who can log in and not have to enter the password every time. It's just more ideal like that, so we'll use sudo abilities, so whatever you want. I'm going to show you the syntax so you can get a good idea. So you write your name, you write the name of your computer, and you do all equal all, and you put this one in the little brackets here, and then you write no password, so that tells it explicitly to not use the password. And then you include the directory to whatever command they're using. This can actually be an executable file too that requires that you created, that you set up to require sudo abilities. But in our case, we're using reboot as what we're looking at. Other notes about Cron is inside the Cron tab editing file. If you include, like, for example, 1 through 3, let's say the hours of the day, it will run the command every minute of those specific hours if you left the minute as a star. As you recall, you can also do this, like say at hour 1, hour 2, or you can do repeat every certain amount of time within whatever you specify. Thank you for watching my video today, and don't forget to like and subscribe to motivate me to continue making these interesting videos.